Good evening and welcome to Self-Care Tips. I am Irene Joroge and we're going to talk about how to keep your cool when you're under pressure. You don't have to be someone who's working in a high-pressure office to encounter these things. You could be even at home, a housewife, a student, a college person, or even somebody who is just not doing anything, but you find that that in itself gives you a lot of pressure. When you're under pressure, it is important to take charge and to be in control so that it does not get worse, it does not escalate. Remember, anything we discuss here is indeed helpful, but always seek the advice of a doctor or a medical professional who will help you through some of these things. If you have ever experienced burnout, you know how important it is to always take a breather. When you don't take time off, you'll find yourself doing things over time. After 3 years of living like this, you could find yourself on the way to a meltdown. When you experience a meltdown, here are the signs. Number one, you become scatterbrained. You actually don't have thoughts that are in line, your thoughts are not processed, and you also look frazzled and disorganized. At the same time, you're not performing. You seem to be doing things, but you're just running on the spot, just doing things on auto mode. This is definitely a sign of meltdown. And when this happens, you can be sure that the next call you're going to get is from human resources. Therefore, take a breather. Keep your weekends for yourself. Get me time. Don't let it be always about pressure, always about work, and always about looking for money. Of course, these things are very important, but at the same time, you need space. You need a break. Take time to pray. Take time to relax. Take time to spend time away from your work. And this way, you will survive any burnout or meltdown. This is Self-Care Tips on how to keep cool during times of pressure. I am Irene Joroge.
Msikilizaji wa Radio Taifa, karibu tena kwenye kipindi kinajulikana kama Rada ni Yesu. Kila Jumapili kinaletwa kwako na rubani unayempenda anajulikana kama Mr. Rafton Iggy. Ungana nami kila Jumapili kuanzia mida ya saa 12 mpaka saa 1 usiku. Kuna muziki noma sampulia hii.
Najua nitaona mazuri.
Mpenzi msikilizaji, ni kunang ni kukaskush. Kila Jumapili ninakuletea miziki za mavijana. Kama wewe ni kijana na unataka injili kamili, utaipata hapa. Tuonane Jumapili hii.
Sauti ya Mkenya.
Uchaguzi mkuu wa tarehe 9 Agosti utabadilisha pakubwa taswira ya kisiasa ya taifa hili. Je, hii inamaanisha nini kwako wewe mpiga kura? Kila Jumapili saa 12 jioni, jiunge nao Gladys Mungai na Harith Salim kwenye makala yetu ya Kenya ya Amua, ambapo pamoja na wadau mbalimbali watajadili na kudadavua kwa kina michakato ya uchaguzi. Fanya uamuzi wa busara. Usikose kutazama Kenya ya Amua kila Jumapili kwenye runinga uipendayo ya KBC Channel 1.
And a very good evening to you. This is Prime Edition. My name is Shiksha Arora and welcome to the show.
Indeed, and well, nothing much to smile about. A nation in mourning following the death of the third president of the Republic of Kenya, Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki. Tonight we bring you a comprehensive coverage of the life and times of the late president. Stick around for that.
Right. We'll be definitely bringing to you the latest in terms of how the day has been. But for now, it's time for the highlights.
It is my sorrowful duty to announce to the nation the passing on of His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki.
Sad day as curtains fall on Kenya's third president, Mwai Kibaki.
We pay tribute to our third president, President Mwai Kibaki, an outstanding economist.
He has served this country for many years with diligence.
An astute leader. Leaders and friends remember Kibaki. Rush for tickets. Party primaries come to an end.
Their governor candidate
gubernatorial candidate to be deputized by Philip Kaloki. Right, and our sign language interpreter is Susan Thuku. Remember, you can get in touch with us and just tell us what are some of your most memorable moments during Mwai Kibaki's time as president. What do you remember him for? We'd love to hear from you at KBC Channel 1, at Shiksha Arora, at John_Kago_M. Find us on Twitter.
All right, there you go. And according to President Uhuru Kenyatta, the flags will fly at half-mast. National mourning starts today until the day of the late president's interment. So let's begin the prime edition tonight.
Now, President Uhuru Kenyatta has eulogized his predecessor, the late President Mwai Kibaki, as a great statesman.
While announcing the passing on of the former head of state today at State House, Nairobi, President Kenyatta described the late Kibaki as a patriot whose legacy of civic responsibility will continue to inspire generations of Kenyans.
Kibaki, who was Kenya's third president, died at the age of 90.
On Friday, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the passing on of former President Mwai Emilio Kibaki, eulogizing him as a great leader and a true embodiment of a statesman.
It is my sorrowful duty to announce to the nation the passing on of His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki. His Excellency Mwai Kibaki lived a dedicated life of service, and we salute a notable father figure in the chronicles of our nation.
The president said the legacy of the late former head of state shall be remembered throughout all generations.
Emilio Mwai Kibaki was a quintessential patriot whose legacy of civic responsibility will continue to inspire generations of Kenyans.
Following the death of the late former head of state, President Kenyatta declared a period of national mourning, including the flying of national flags at half-mast until a state funeral is held.
That the flag of the Republic of Kenya shall be flown at half-mast at State House and all Kenyan diplomatic missions, public buildings, public grounds, all military bases, posts and stations, on all naval vessels of the Republic of Kenya and elsewhere throughout the entire territory of the Republic of Kenya from today.
The president said the former president will be accorded a state funeral with full military honors and protocols. A special committee has been established to plan the burial of the late president. Since leaving office, Kibaki has been in and out of hospital.
His contributions in the Ministry of Finance and as vice president saw Kenya's economy grow steadily, fueled by a commodities boom, as well as fiscal and monetary policies that were the backbone of his economic philosophy.
He breathed his last at the age of 90. Purity Museo, Prime Edition.
Now, leaders have been reacting to the news of the death of former President Mwai Kibaki, heaping praise on the fallen Kenya's third head of state.
Deputy President William Ruto has eulogized the former president as a top economist and a man who has distinguished himself with the great legacy that he has left behind.
ODM leader Raila Odinga says the late former president had an impeccable team spirit and was a motivator for his ministries.
Here's some of the reactions from the leaders. As we give you a comprehensive coverage of the life and times of the late president, that's Mwai Kibaki, the third head of state. We are looking at it not too long. The state is in mourning following the death of Stanley Emilio Mwai Kibaki. Kenyans totally disheartened by his passing and recollecting his achievements during his presidency, as well as the roles in the public service.
Absolutely, and netizens have taken to social media to offer their condolences to the family. Take a look at what Kenyans have been saying on social media.
Lost a great man. Remember, about 20 years ago, he changed our economy from a 0 digit to a 9-digit economy.
We've lost one of the guys that we can classify as a hero. Because for the first time I heard the name Kibaki, I associate Kibaki with development.
I thank him because he's the one who put down the price of fertilizer, and 2, he bought our maize on a very good note.
Mtu ya bodaboda hakuwa amejulikana katika taifa letu, lakini Mheshimiwa Kibaki aliweza kutambua hiyo watu na kuwapatia kazi.
We also remember Kibaki for the Thika superhighway, which did not cost us a lot.
Kibaki was the best man. He could not bother maybe following these things of discrimination.
Kazi yake tuliona kama Wakenya wamefaidika sana kimaendeleo. Tuliona mambo makuu aliyafanya akiwa uongozini hapa Jamhuri ya Kenya.
Alikuwa rais wa mzalendo aliyojenga taifa yetu ya Kenya na aliyofanya mambo mengi ya maana.
Akaleta uthabiti katika hali ya kisiasa, na ni rais ambaye tunamkumbuka kwa kuwa mpole.
He has brought free and primary education and secondary education. He has opened some institutions. Some of institutions were, it has converted to the university and the institution. During the Mzee has played so many things, and we really appreciate whatever he has done in Kenya here.
Right, and a lot of your reactions on what you remember most about the passing on of what you remember about the times of the late President Mwai Kibaki. A lot remember the Thika Superhighway, a lot remember him as an economist, and there's a lot, even when it comes to his light side, he was a comedian of sorts, so we shall be looking at that too long. We look at the profile.
Absolutely, still remember, some of his speeches and some of his quotes. I have to say that he was a very, very powerful, but at the same time, as you said, he had his moments where he would show his human side. Absolutely. And he would show his character as being, having a lot of humor.
Absolutely, he was totally humorous. All right, let's look at the profile of the late Mwai Kibaki.
Mwai Kibaki, naapa kwamba
Emilio Stanley Mwai Kibaki was born on 15th November 1931 in Gatuyani village, Othaya, in present-day Nyeri County. Kibaki worked as a lecturer at Makerere University in Uganda.
Kibaki, useme na wananchi wa Kirinyaga.
Kibaki returned to Kenya to become KANU's executive officer and help draft Kenya's independence constitution. In 1962, Kibaki was elected the Member of Parliament for Donholm constituency, present-day Makadara. Subsequently, he was appointed Assistant Minister for Finance and Chairman of the Economic Planning Commission in 1963. He played a key role in drafting the famous 1965 Sessional Paper No. 10 on African Socialism and its application to planning in Kenya. He will be promoted to become Minister for Commerce and Industry in 1966 and later Minister for Finance and Economic Planning in 1969 after he was re-elected to Parliament to represent Donholm constituency.
That we shall have to divert a very significant proportion of our resources towards expenditures for defense. And thus this means that we will not be spending as much as we would like to do on other economic services.
He was overwhelmingly elected Othaya Member of Parliament in 1974, getting re-elected to Parliament in 1979, 1983, 1988, 1992, 1997, 2002 and 2007. When Daniel Arap Moi succeeded Jomo Kenyatta as country's president in 1972, Kibaki was named Kenya's vice president but retained his position as finance minister. He was moved to the Ministry of Home Affairs in 1982. A fallout with President Moi in March 1988 saw Kibaki demoted from the vice presidency and moved to the Ministry of Health as minister. Despite the fallout with Moi, Kibaki will remain loyal to the president and the ruling party KANU. Hence it came as a surprise for many when he resigned from government in December 1991, days after the repeal of Section 2A of the Constitution, which restored multipartyism in Kenya. His resignation will then see him form the Democratic Party DP, with which he used to vie for presidency in 1992 against Moi, Kenneth Matiba and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. Kibaki came in third. He ran for presidency again in 1997, this time round finishing second behind Moi and becoming the leader of the official opposition in 1998. Mwai Kibaki will give the presidency another shot in 2002, this time around boosted by a host of other opposition parties under the National Rainbow Alliance. And true to the saying, third time is the charm, on 27 December 2007, Kibaki and NARC registered a landslide victory over KANU with 62% of the votes compared to his competitor Uhuru Kenyatta's 31%.
Haya tutatimiza, hakuna mambo ambayo hatuwezi kutimiza.
The win brought an end to KANU's 4 decades rule since independence. Kibaki got re-elected in 2007 for his second and final term as the president of Kenya.
Najua wengine ni wajana tu, walizaliwa jana. Katiba hii tumekuwa tukipigania for 20 years.
In fact, just looking through some of the comments and, of course, some of the messages, the condolences that leaders have been giving all day regarding the death of late President Mwai Kibaki.
All right, and Deputy President William Ruto has eulogized the former president as an economist, a top economist, as a matter of fact, and a man who distinguished himself with great legacy that he has left behind.
ODM leader Raila Odinga also says the late former president had an impeccable team spirit and was a motivator for his ministers. Here are some of the reactions from the leaders. Take a look.
Who are today without him? He has laid a solid foundation, a foundation upon which the rest of us leaders today we are building on. And he has been a great inspiration.
He has served this country for many years with diligence, with fortitude, with honesty and transparency.
There are very few leaders, even within the African continent, with a spirit of selflessness and singular sense of purpose and service to his people, more than Mwai Kibaki.
We remember him fondly as one of the most detribalized public leaders in this country. He stood out, made friends far and wide in Kenya.
Nchi yote na dunia imepoteza mtu ambaye angeweza kuangaliwa na watu kusoma mengi, na ushauri wake ulikuwa wa hali ya juu sana.
His Excellency Emilio Mwai Kibaki captured the imagination of our country, restored hope and rebuilt an economy that was on its knees.
President Kibaki taught people of this country and of the region great lessons. Among them, that service to mankind was not an opportunity for personal aggrandizement, and that opportunity to do public service and public good was rare.
He was a statesman that was unique, that he listened to what people were saying before he made a decision.
Now, Mwai Kibaki may never have dreamt of becoming the third president of Kenya if his background is anything to go by.
Well, Safina Chengoma traces the roots of the son of Kikuyu peasant farmers in the former Nyeri district of Central Province, whose academic brilliance propelled him to prestigious learning institutions, both locally and internationally, and later served as an assistant lecturer at Makerere University prior to joining the world of politics.
We used to sell about 10% of our total.
He was born on 15th November 1931 in Dhunguri village, Othaya division in the then Nyeri district of Central Province, now Nyeri County. His parents, Kibaki Gavanji and Teresia Wanjiku, were peasant farmers. Even though he was baptized as Emilio Stanley by Italian missionaries in his youth, he has always been known as Mwai Kibaki. He began his academic journey at Gatuyaini School, which he attended for the first 2 years, completing what was then called Sub A and Sub B, equivalent of Grade 1 and Grade 2. He would later join Karima Mission School for the 3 more classes of primary, and between 1944 and 1946, he proceeded to Madari School, now Nyeri High School, for Standard 4 to 6. Aside from his academic prowess, he acquired skills in carpentry, masonry, and agriculture. He joined Mangu High School in 1947 and passed his O-level examination with a maximum of 6 points in 1950. In his final year in Mangu, Kibaki considered becoming a soldier, perhaps inspired by the veterans of the First and Second World Wars in his native village.
He, however, opted to shelve his ambition and instead joined Makerere University in Kampala, Uganda, to study economics, history, and political science. His academic brilliance saw him graduate best in his class in 1955 with a first-class honors degree in economics. After his graduation, he took up an appointment as Assistant Sales Manager, Shell Company of East Africa, Uganda Division. It was while working there that he earned a scholarship to pursue a postgraduate studies in any British university. He joined the prestigious London School of Economics for a BSc in Public Finance, graduating with a distinction. In 1958, he went back to Makerere University, this time as an assistant lecturer, and taught in the economics department. In early 1960, Kibaki left academia for active politics by giving up his job at Makerere and returning to Kenya to begin his journey into politics as the executive officer of Kenya African National Union Party. In 1961, Kibaki married Lucy Muthoni, a daughter of a church minister who was then a secondary school head teacher. The couple was blessed with 4 children: Judy Wanjiku, Jimmy Kibaki, David Kagai, and Tony Githinji. Lucy, however, died on 26th of April 2016 at 80 years at Buma Cromwell Hospital in London after a brief hospitalization at the Nairobi Hospital for chest pains. He was a committed member of the Roman Catholic Church and attended mostly Sunday afternoon services at the Consolata Shrines Catholic Church in Nairobi. He enjoyed playing golf and was a member of the Muthaiga Golf Club. For Prime Edition, I'm Safin Achieng Ouma.
All right, you go first.
I was just going to say quite an illustrious journey.
Absolutely. And as we continue to give you comprehensive coverage of the life and times of the late President Mwai Kibaki, continue sharing your feedback. What are those handles again?
Absolutely. At KBC Channel 1, at Shiksha Arora, at John_Kago_M. Talk to us on Facebook, talk to us on Twitter as well. Send in your thoughts. And remember, you can also tell us what you remember the late Mwai Kibaki for.
All right, let's take a breather. Prime Edition is back in a moment.
Ili kupata Warumi 8 kama skiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *811 *815#.
Nina hakika kwamba hakuna kinachoweza kukutenga na upendo wa Mwenyezi Mungu. Si kifo, si malaika, si vitu tulivyokuwa navyo au tutakavyokuwa navyo, si mamlaka au chochote kitakachoumbwa. Warumi 8:38 hadi 39.
Kupata Warumi 8, bonyeza *811 *815#. *811 *815#.
Did you know that while many road traffic crashes are avoidable, human behavior continues to be the leading cause? Stop these crashes before they stop you. Ensure that you adhere to traffic rules to prevent these crashes. Always observe the fatal 6 to be safe. When driving, please ensure that your speed is within the stipulated limits, the road ahead is clear before overtaking, stick to your lane, keep left unless carefully overtaking, ensure that you are well rested before driving on long distance, and never drink and drive. Usalama barabarani starts with you. Fika salama. This message is brought to you by NTSA and the European Union.
Kenya has come a long way in ICT development. The government set up the Universal Service Fund to bring communication services to remote and hard-to-reach parts of the country. We are ensuring that every Kenyan is connected to business, to better education, to better healthcare, to a better life, so that no one is left behind in our journey to a digitally transformed nation. Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
Welcome back. Now, former President Mwai Kibaki left office in 2013 after serving for 2 5-year terms as head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces from 2002 to 2013.
Well, during his tenure, the former president Mwai Kibaki presided over significant growth in various sectors of the economy, with his greatest moment being the promulgation of the new constitution.
However, Mwai Kibaki's legacy was marred when irregularities during a re-election bid ended in deadly violence in 2007. Ben Chumba has the details.
Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba
On 30th December 2002, Mwai Kibaki took the oath of office as Kenya's third president on a wheelchair in front of hundreds of thousands of Kenyans at Uhuru Park in Nairobi, with his right leg in a cast after a December 3rd car accident at Machakos Junction. Kibaki swore to conduct his duties as president without fear or favor or malice. Kibaki will then reward Wamalwa Kijana with the vice presidency for his contribution to his presidential win. On January 3rd, 2003, Kibaki named his first cabinet, where many of his loyalists who had campaigned for him when he was recovering from the accident made it to the list. Among them were Raila Odinga, Martha Karua, Kalonzo Musyoka, Charity Ngilu, Mudi Awori, Lina Jebi Kilimo, Najib Balala, Kiraitu Murungi, Anyang' Nyong'o, Chirau Ali Makwere, Mukisa Kitui, and Ochilo Ayako. However, the year 2007-2008 was no ordinary year for Kenyans after a disputed election where more than 1,500 people died and 650,000 others were displaced. Former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan mediated the talks between the government and the opposition, where a power-sharing agreement was reached, reintroducing the position of Prime Minister into the government. In the chaotic aftermath of the 2007-2008 unrest, Kibaki will find himself in an unusual position of presiding over a referendum that overwhelmingly endorsed a new constitution aimed at averting a repeat of the violence. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
And remember, we asked you to share what you thought, you remember the former president Mwai Kibaki for. Kago was just discussing his wit, his humor, some of his famous quotes from his speeches. Never a dull moment, actually, when he was giving his speeches.
Absolutely. And speaking about that, the former president, known for, as you mentioned, his eloquence, I saw him impress his audience with his clarity in articulating government policies.
Now, these are excerpts of some of those speeches.
The high premium Mwai Kibaki placed on education was exemplified by how he emphatically pushed for free primary education. This he began as an election campaign pledge and fulfilled it soon after being sworn in as Kenya's third president.
Ni lazima tuwe na bidii ya kufanya.
As a former finance minister, he knew only too well the challenges brought by rapid population growth.
Viwanda vijengwe kote katika Kenya, na sio tu katika miji mikubwa ya Kenya vile Nairobi na Mombasa.
Still on responsible parenting, he cautioned the youth against excessive drinking.
I have no reason but to appeal to you. Please, do not yield to the field of drinking. I say this not because I don't drink, no, I do.
He used words that left many in wonder.
If you just hang around and don't register, you are useless. No, true. You can't be useful. You can't be any use because you are not participating in the development of Kenya.
Kibaki was in many ways unlike his predecessor Daniel Moi, who was vocal on many issues of national importance.
I appeal to all political leaders and their supporters to engage in peaceful campaigns. Let us all remember that Kenya's collective destiny is far more important than the interest of any individual person or group.
He, however, on a few occasions seized the opportunity to set the record straight, as he did during the clamor by the proscribed Mombasa Republican Army to have the coast secede from Kenya.
Hakuna haja mtu yeyote awe ni nani au nani kujaribu kutuharibia nchi. Hakuna mtu ataweza hiyo. Wananchi wa Kenya wamejitoa na wako tayari, na hakuna mtu ambaye ni yeyote ambaye ataweza kuleta fujo katika nchi ya Kenya.
Purity Museo, Prime Edition.
Some very interesting moments there.
Absolutely. It was never a dull moment with the late president. Well, an astute manager. That is what Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kago remembers the late president for.
And of course, the spiritual Archbishop Anthony Muheria reminisces a dear friend, senior citizen ambassador Francis Muthaura. That's what they know him as.
I told this in the memory of the former president, Mwai Kibaki.
Let me start by saying that the late President Mwai Kibaki was always a father figure to us. His age was such that he was almost he was my father's age. And consequently, in our relationship with him, way back to when we were young people around the town, and he was then the finance minister in the government of late President Moi, he was a man we all admired as we grew up. And as young yuppies, as young men in Nyeri, we used to go to Nyeri Club, where we would find him and greet him and admire him for the way he held himself and the way he worked. When he launched the Democratic Party, some of us, I was then working for the Standard newspaper, I volunteered to work as his PR. I remember working on his posters. I remember organizing for his photography on top of what is now Integrity House for the presidential poster that we were eventually printing at Karaprint and following up there with Gengi Muigai to see that it was printed. So for us, he represented aspiration. We really wanted to be like him, and in doing so, he led us in a very calm way. As I said, he symbolizes tolerance. He symbolized humility, and it is no wonder then that those of us, including current President Uhuru, really, admired and liked the way that Kibaki led us.
It is during Kibaki's tenure that the world came to realize that people can send money from one person to the other using their mobile phone. Tell us more about that innovation and what role did the president play in realizing that dream?
Well, there are two things in connection with mobile money. First is the building of the infrastructure that can allow for mobile money, and that can allow for the kind of communication that we do today, and as cheaply as we do today, in terms of implementation of the construction of a fiber optic cable. And I still remember, being out in the UAE and being unable to find where our fiber optic cable was going to land in Fujairah. And I asked Ambassador Hussein, who was then serving, I said, Hussein, how do we get the government of UAE to agree for Kenya to connect his fiber optic cable here? And he said, if you can get a letter from President Kibaki and to the Lura of Dubai, then we can get this show done. And I picked up my phone I telephoned Ipu, who was then serving as in President Kibaki's State House Comptroller, and I said to him, I need to talk to the president, because Kibaki did not carry a phone around with him. I need to talk to the president, and he said, okay, and he walked to his office, and he says, huko iko namna gani? And I said, hapa ni joto mzee, lakini iko joto ingine nataka usaidizi. And I explained to him that I needed a letter from him. And he said, that letter, nani atalete? So I explained to him that, PS Bitange Demo was going to pick up the letter from him and bring it to Fujairah. That's how, to Dubai. That's how we got the Fujairah connection. Without him, it would never have been possible. And then came the launch of the M-Pesa. Remember, there was a lot of debate around M-Pesa, that how can Safaricom hold money for people when it is not a bank? So do they need a banking license? But they can't get a banking license because they are not a bank. Yeah, so then, the catch-22 situation. And when we explained it, both myself and Amos Kimunya, who was then finance minister, and we explained to him, he said, listen, technology, we will never be able to make laws for technology before it comes. You can only make laws for technology once it has come. And consequent to which, let's go ahead. He approved that we go ahead with the launch of M-Pesa. And as we go on, we will appreciate what needs to be done, for the control and management of M-Pesa. Again, without him, it would never have been done.
When he left office in 2013, did you also keep contact?
Yes, we did. We would meet occasionally in very many functions, but don't forget at that time he was also resting. But on many occasions, when he would be in Nyeri, when he would be in functions, when he would be in church functions, we would meet and and engage each other. So, for me, it is the loss of a mentor, and I think for Kenyans, it is really the loss of a great, great leader. But he wasn't just a leader just for Kenya, or for that matter, for Nyeri. He was a leader for East Africa. He was admired person across the globe. And let's not forget that he was first admired, not even because of his presidency, but of his knowledge of the economy, his understanding of economics and what a nation can be as a result of economic leadership. So for us, I think, for us in my generation, and those of us who worked under President Kibaki, I think he's a great loss. You feel like a little part of you, and a little part of your leadership vision is gone. And then you ask yourself, now that has happened, we have always looked at the age group of the Mwai Kibaki. There was the others who have passed on, and you ask yourself, now that they are gone, who are we looking at? And then suddenly you look behind you and you see you look ahead of you and you see there's nobody, and the realization that you are the wazes now, is one that is scary. But it is one that also comes with responsibility, and for us to emulate and lead in a manner that was set for us as a standard, as a yardstick on which we must all reach.
If you were to describe the late president in one or two words, how would you describe him?
A humble man of God. He was not a priest. He was not a preacher, but he was a humble man of God.
What are you going to miss about the late president?
I think just the knowledge that he's not around, that you can say, at a personal level, for example, I can go to Judy and say, hey, we want to go and see Mzee. The fact that you can't do that is sad. It's really sad. Yeah. And I really want to just wish the members of his family who I know well, I really wish them well, and I hope that God gives them strength to overcome this very sad period.
He was the first formulation of the Kenyan development strategy and the broad-based development of the country, allowing or encouraging private sector development in the country and really supporting the other essential services in the history of this country. He delivered the second constitution of this country. He delivered the economic and the social, the Vision 2030 for this country. The constitution really entrenched democracy, human rights. It entrenched freedoms of expression in this country, and brought about devolution, which is key to the all-inclusive development strategy for this country. During his time, we saw continuous, sustained growth of above 6%. In fact, the target was to reach 10%, but he left at one of the highest economic growth rates, 7.1%. So his strategy focused on essential services like education, expanded education at unprecedented speed, rate. Primary education became free, and primary enrollment became almost universal. He expanded, more than doubled the secondary school capacity. Before secondary school was limited to only boarding schools, but he opened up space for these schools, secondary schools, and that more than doubled. He increased the universities from 6 to 22 universities. You remember, during the referendum of 2005, government lost. At that time he was in Mary, and I was here. I called him because I didn't sleep at night. Very early in the morning, where I waited up to 7. Then I called him. I said, Your Excellency, you wanted to come today afternoon, but I proposed that you come in the morning so that you can address the nation. He told me, yes, I'm preparing to come, I'm coming. So you prepare as the speech, the speech draft. You normally prepare draft. Then I told him, Your Excellency, we are really shocked. You have done so much. The country, we were doing the growth. Everything was up in terms of performance. But how we lost the referendum, I could not understand. He told me, don't worry. Hiyo imeisha. He was never frightened or shocked. Ndudi hayo ya maisha. So we started another chapter. That was Kibaki. He came and of course addressed the nation and he gave at least assurance that the government has accepted the results and now we shall start preparing for what Kenyans want.
Simplicity, and yet with his wit, he has always held this country together. He never took something so seriously as to think that the world was coming to an end. He lightened the moment and always pushed us and pushed every Kenyan to look forward with hope to solutions even to the worst crisis that we as a country have always faced. He himself in his personal life has faced many crises. Those moments when before the election, as you recall, when he had the accident and took it with courage, with boldness, and with peace and calm and serenity, without putting too much emphasis at what will happen, and thank God with a great, deep sense of godliness. We remember our former president, Mwai Kibaki, as a very godly man. He is a man who we saw often in Consolata Shrine for Mass. He's a man who never put aside, nor shied of showing his deep faith in God. And oftentimes would reach out to us, the religious leaders, not only to ask us for prayers, but also to encourage us so that we may pray for this nation. I recall too, he's a man of great patience. In the transitions that have happened in the government, when he took over and even after his second election, he always took it with style, with great statesmanship, with nobility, but again with a great sense of the value of the country, of the nation, and even with the various challenges that came, for example, after the 2007 post-election violence. He was willing to humbly seek a solution for the good of this nation. And he didn't think he was a loser or a gainer. He didn't count himself as having won, but counted that the nation won. And this we are greatly indebted. I say he was a man of great patience. My today memory, when I had decided to resign from the Judicial Service Commission, which I had the honor that he undeserved honor that he appointed me to this Judicial Service Commission, and had decided to resign. And I called if I could see him. And indeed, the next day I was told, yes, I could see him through his secretary to go to Harambee House to meet him. Unfortunately, as I was coming, there was a terrible jam in Pangani. And I called the office of the President, Harambee, and I said, then it was Professor Wanjohi, told him, sorry, I'm caught in this traffic, I can't make it. I said, don't worry, I've told the President, he'll wait for you, he'll delay his lunch. I kept him waiting, he was waiting for 1 entire hour. And when I came, of course, everyone was rushing me to the office. And I entered his office, he was calm. And I told him, I'm very sorry, I really apologize. He said, don't worry, just take a seat and let us talk. He didn't fire me for coming late. He didn't fire me from having waited for an entire hour. He's the president of this nation. Instead, he made me comfortable. And we spoke for an entire hour, which made him late for his lunch, where I explained to him why I had to make this decision. He took it very understanding. A man of patience, a man who is understanding, and that did not in any way mar our relation, as he would invite me for another moment in the discussions on things which he thought that I could make even my humble contribution. He had great respect for all church leaders. I want to single out especially our dear Cardinal, John Jue, many of the Catholic bishops, but he also had great relations with Archbishop Zimbi and others other leaders from the Methodist Church, and even some of the Muslim leaders, religious leaders. He had no discrimination and listened with a very keen ear. He was a wonderful listener. We lose a great statesman, but above all, we lose a father, a man who all these nations were both amused at when he made those jokes, but all of us admired and loved him as an elder and a father, because he came out as a man of equanimity, a man who was balanced in his character, in his statement, and in his leadership. We pray that God may give him a great reward for the services given to this nation. I'm sure also for the great services given to his family, to us also who in one way have had some relation with him, that the Lord may reward him with eternal happiness and give him great joy where he had always longed as a good Christian to be. We also want to ask and pray for his family, that they may be consoled, that they may find comfort, and that the Lord may renew that joy that they know that their father has gone to the place he has longed for, and their grandfather and their great-grandfather. This is a wonderful news that while we are mourning, we are also happy to God who has rested him. In these last 3 years, his health has been not well. And so even many times we were worried about his health, and we always prayed for him, always trying to send messages to his family of encouragement. And so it's a rest after a long service to people and mankind, humankind, and to this country. May Mwai Kibaki, Emilio Mwai Kibaki, rest in peace. May his soul rest in peace. And may we Kenyans admire the great statesmanship, great leader, a man of great humility, who never forced his way, who always sought to convince others, a man who also was willing to humble himself in moments when it was called for the good of the nation and others. That's a great lesson for all of us Kenyans. Humility, not pride, not ostentation, not power, but service, humility, fear of God, respect, and love for others. May God rest his soul in eternal peace. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Just one more question. How can Kenyans...
That's Archbishop Anthony Muheria reminiscing about his interactions with the late President Mwai Kibaki. A little earlier, as senior citizen, Ambassador Francis Mudhaura also sharing his, and of course, Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe also giving his thoughts on the life and times and interactions with the late President Mwai Kibaki.
All right, it's time for a short commercial break, but we'll be back in just a moment. Don't go too far.
Nana is my name. My daughter is constantly online these days because, well, it's the new normal way for them to learn. Now, whether here at home or in school, it is important to work with them online so that you find out more about what they're looking for. Also, find out what is out there, because the things I've seen online... So for me, passwords on gadgets is a must.
Being fooled online? Get CyberSmart to enjoy safe entertainment and education online. The Communications Authority of Kenya. Mawasiliano kwetu, nguvu kwako.
Welcome back. Now, the late President Mwai Kibaki is credited with turning around the Kenyan economy, which had faced years of stagnation.
Now, when he took over from the late President Daniel Arap Moi, the economy had expanded by 0.6% in the year 2002.
During his swearing-in, Kibaki vowed to revive economic growth through increased investment in infrastructure and agriculture and reforming the country's investment environment.
And by the time Kibaki handed over the reign of leadership to President Uhuru Kenyatta, the national budget had grown to, listen to this, to 1.2 trillion shillings, up from 321 billion shillings in 2002.
Regina Manyara traces Kibaki's economic model and fiscal planning. Take a look.
Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba.
When former President Mwai Kibaki was sworn in December 2002, the Kenyan economy was facing major challenges characterized by slow GDP growth of less than 1%, revenue collection of lower than 200 billion shillings, poor infrastructure, and poor investment climate. During his swearing-in, Kibaki singled out poverty and food security, unemployment, deterioration of the education sector, lack of access to basic and affordable health services, as well as a constitutional review as some of his immediate assignments.
Fellow Kenyans, let us all rededicate ourselves to fulfilling the dream of our founding fathers. Indeed, may the new constitutional dispensation be our shield and defender as we strive to conquer poverty, disease, and ignorance.
This was powered by increased government expenditure, doubling in Kibaki's first term in office to hit 700 billion shillings in the 2007-2008 financial year, to 1.2 trillion shillings by the time he was leaving office in 2013.
The launch of this program marks an important milestone in my government's efforts to secure a bright future for the children and youth of Kenya.
Free primary education was Kibaki's election promise in 2002, and he delivered, with about 150,000 children returning to school in January 2003. In his last budget of 2013-2014, 288.5 billion shillings was set aside for roads, expanding generation capacity and access to electricity, modern national ICT infrastructure, and expansion of ports and rail facilities.
When we took over, our budget was less than 180 billion Kenya shillings. We are not talking of 1.4 trillion. Trillion, if you ask to count 1, 2, 3 trillion, you take 1,000 years, is what I'm told.
Termed as an astute economist, under Kibaki's rule, the economy experienced steady growth, where GDP growth was, in 2011, 4.4%, with income tax collection having more than quadrupled to 160 billion shillings. However, during his tenure, government's expenditure outpaced revenue collection.
We will not tolerate those who have no respect for human life or private property. Moreover, our country believes in the rule of law, and therefore those who are victims of violence should not take the law into their own hands, but should report the perpetrators to the law enforcement authorities.
The late former President Mwai Kibaki will be remembered for many things, among them steering the country's economy amid the meltdown in 2008-2009 due to the effects of the post-election violence and the inauguration of the new constitution that introduced the devolved system of governance.
Katiba hii tumekuwa tukipigania for 20 years, miaka 20.
Regina Manyara reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Right, of course. Now, let's take a look at what people have been saying on social media. Remember, there's been some tweets. Leaders have sent out the messages of condolences as well. You know, just you and I as well. Every Kenyan has something to say regarding the death of the third president of Kenya, Mzee Mwai Kibaki.
Mourning the passing of their third president. These are seen thousands of posts shared on social media following the announcement. At half-mast, so the flag will remain till the day of sunset. A gloomy day in the hearts of many. Feelings of desolation as Kenyans mourn a former president, Mwai Kibaki, who was cherished by many. A funny man as well, who never failed to make a dull moment lighter. Jerry tweeted, Mwai Kibaki was such a president with a good sense of humor. R.I.P. Indeed, most people will forever remember him for his candor. Kenyans mourn his demise, but greatly appreciate the changes he brought to the nation. Maria wrote, in the history books, he will go down as selfless leader. Economic uplift, free primary education, better infrastructure, youth fund were realized during his tenure. Fare thee well, Mzee Mwai Kibaki, a statesman. Nick, millions of Kenyans attended school, were lifted from poverty, saw a tarmac road, got electricity, got to school. The list goes on. Due to the selflessness of Mr. Kibaki, he gave hope to a nation. May he rest in peace. Wycliffe tweeted, while some people were here, they left footprints in our hearts, and we are never the same. President Emilio Mwai Kibaki is an icon to be remembered. We pray for you, close family, and Kenya at large, that you will gather strength and abound in grace in the days ahead. Be still, Kenya. Kijana ya Atwoli posts, I can only appreciate the late Mwai Kibaki for establishing free education in Kenya. Wow. Voice of Homa Bay tweeted, what a loss to Kenya. You are forever a champion and patriot. We will miss you, President Mwai Kibaki. Rest in peace. Crying and heartbroken emoji. For Panadol, Mwai Kibaki is dead. There once lived an incredible statesman. Although the curtains are fallen on the former President Mwai Kibaki, Kenyans say the impact of his services shall live on. I am Teresa Mutai.
Now, aside from being a great economist, did you know that former President Mwai Kibaki had a love for golf and served as patron of the Kenya Golf Union from 1978?
Well, it was during his presidency that reforms in the administration of sport at government level were jump-started.
Here is a sports viewpoint of Kibaki, of the Kibaki presidency. Take a look.
It was in former President Mwai Kibaki's first cabinet that sports gained stature in government. Honorable Najib Balala was appointed as Minister for Gender, Sport and Social Services. This was followed by the creation of the Sports Stadium Management Board to manage facilities in the country. It was also during his presidency that the Sports Act was initiated and it came to life in 2013. On the 5th of July 2003, the former president was at the stadium as Dennis Oliet scored the winning goal against Cape Verde to send the Harambee Stars to the 2004 Africa Cup of Nations. In 2007, Kenya successfully hosted the World Cross Country Championships in Mombasa as President Kibaki's first term came to a close. In 2010, he officially opened the African Senior Athletics Championships at the Nyayo National Stadium, where Kenya topped the medal table, scooping 25 medals, 10 of them being gold. In 2009, he got to meet the world record holder in the 100 meters Usain Bolt, who was in the country to adopt a cheetah. And he also received the FIFA World Cup trophy. From a family perspective, the former president's son Jimmy and his grandson Mwai Kibaki Jr. were ardent motocross riders and represented the country in different classes. From 1978, former President Kibaki served as patron of the Kenya Golf Union, and Muthaiga Golf Club was his favorite hangout. As president, he attended the Kenya Open Golf Championship event, with his last one in office taking place at the Current Country Club in February of 2013. In 2018, he was among the 12 persons inducted into the Kenya Open Golf Limited Hall of Fame. In his honor, the Nyeri Club hosts the annual Kibaki Trophy tournament. The trophy was donated to the club in 1976 when the late Kibaki was Minister for Finance. To sportsmen, the legacy of the former president is a defined cash reward scheme for medalists at global events that has been retained to date. May his soul rest in eternal peace. For Prime Edition, I am Daniel Wahome.
Now, Orange Democratic Movement leader Raila Odinga has left for the United States of America for a week-long visit.
According to the ODM party, Raila is expected to hold meetings with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the U.S. State Department for National Security Council, and the Kenyan diaspora.
He is expected to outline his vision for Kenya, as well as underline the historic importance of the strategic relationships between Kenya and the United States of America. The ODM leader is accompanied by, among other leaders, NARC Kenya leader Martha Karua, Governors Wycliffe Oparanya, Nderitu Muriithi, and James Ongwae. Now, former Nairobi Deputy Governor Polycarp Igathe has been picked to fly the Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party ticket in the Nairobi governorship race.
Well, Polycarp, who will be deputized by former Kibwezi Member of Parliament Philip Kaloki, was settled on after a meeting chaired by Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga and Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka.
Zainab Said now reports.
The Azimio la Umoja Council has brokered a deal to have Polycarp Igathe fly the coalition's flag in Nairobi on 9th August. Igathe will be deputized on the ballot by Philip Kaloki after Timothy Wanyonyi agreed to seek re-elected in Westlands.
The governor candidate is going to be Mr. Polycarp Igathe. He will be deputized by Professor Kaloki.
ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna has been nominated to vie for senator, while Esther Passaris will fly the ODM flag in the race for Nairobi County Women Representative.
The women representative is going to be Madam Esther Passaris, and Mirika Ngatia is going to be appointed as the President's Special Envoy on Trade with immediate effect.
Friday's lineup comes after days of political grandstanding, with leaders allied to Westlands Member of Parliament vowing to accept nothing less than a gubernatorial ticket. Friday's deal to that effect halted ODM nominations in Westlands and Kibra, where Tim Wanyonyi and Bernard Okoth were handed direct party tickets. Richard Ngatia, who was overlooked for the Jubilee ticket in the race for Nairobi governor, has been appointed as the president's special envoy on trade. For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
Moving on, the Kenya Kwanza Coalition says it will reform the Kenya Revenue Authority to make it what the coalition terms as people-friendly.
The coalition's presidential flag bearer, William Ruto, says small businesses have for a long time suffered in the hands of the authority through taxes, and that the reforms will seek to empower small-scale traders in line with the coalition's bottom-up economic model.
Wycliffe Okech reports.
The Kenya Kwanza Coalition on Friday held a consultative economic forum in Kakamega County with a view to understand the challenges facing the locals. It is here that the coalition's principals promised to reform the Kenya Revenue Authority to make it more friendly to small-scale businesses.
Umesema mnataka KRA
iwe efficient and friendly, isiwe ni chombo ya kugandamiza wafanyabiashara. KRA ifanye biashara yake, itusaidie kukusanya ushuru, lakini ijue ya kwamba ile ng'ombe ambayo inatoa maziwa ni biashara ya wananchi.
The coalition's presidential flag bearer and Deputy President William Ruto maintained that his proposed bottom-up economic model will spur economic development in the country by empowering small-scale enterprises, which he observed is the lifeline of many Kenyans.
We are going to provide a subsidy program that will make sure that farmers have access to subsidized fertilizer as a means of reducing the cost of production of our basic food items so that we can lower the cost of living in Kenya by making sure that food is affordable.
The Kenya Kwanza leaders also promised major transformation in education, agriculture and health sectors. ANC and Ford Kenya party leaders Musalia Mudavadi and Moses Wetangula used the opportunity to defend their decision to join forces with the Deputy President William Ruto, saying their unity is for the benefit of the community and by extension the entire country.
Tumekubaliana kwamba katika mrengo wetu wa kutengeneza mambo ya serikali, we have negotiated that
you have a government coming in that listens, that is responsive, that cares, that will be participatory, that will be results oriented.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Kwanza coalition has postponed all political engagements to allow time for the mourning of the departed former President Mwai Kibaki. For Easy Friday, I am Wycliffe Okech.
All right, taking a look at the business stories today, non-deposit taking SACCOs have appealed to the SACCO Society's regulatory authority to review the proposed levies considering the current high cost of living. Barakayetu SACCO CEO Thomas Osoro says SACCO members who do not have a stable monthly income are continuously defaulting on loans, which is negatively affecting the cooperative movement.
The SACCO Society's regulatory authority, SASRA, is proposing a levy order of 0.165% on the total non-withdrawable deposits, above other charges imposed on more than 4,000 SACCOs across the country. If approved, this will see SASRA net at least 137.98 million shillings from 169 SACCOs. Barakayetu SACCO CEO Thomas Osoro says the levies compromise the operations of SACCOs that draw membership from micro, small and medium-sized enterprises due to irregular income of the members.
It's good to note that the SMEs are the most potential business people compared to even salaried. SMEs have got potential to save any time compared to salaried people who save at the end of the month at a specific period. So we don't really feel it as a challenge. What we want to do more is education to our members and reorganize ourselves so that we can be at par with expectations.
He further says the high cost of living has seen members defaulting on loans, which compromises the growth of the SACCOs, and a multi-sectoral approach is required.
Because the things are a bit tight, and we just come from the lockdown of the pandemic, which was not easy. It's a global effect, and we've had the current war of Ukraine and Russia, which is trickling down to our economy. However, we need to be resilient. We've given enough education to our members. We've told them on how they need to position themselves and come out successfully.
He said this during Baraka's SACCO's annual general meeting, where officials told members that the SACCO's membership recorded a 13% growth in 2021, anchored on admission of charmers.
We want to encourage our members and encourage all the business community within Nairobi. Welcome.
Reporting for Prime Edition, I am Dutamo Kami.
Do you have a news story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Did you know that while many road traffic crashes are avoidable, human behavior continues to be the leading cause? Stop these crashes before they stop you.
Kwa kona board. Hapo ni wapi? Niko hapa kuna board na kwanga hapa karibu na nini na Epic Office.
Nini unafanya huku ndani?
Nilikuwa nakula handasa. Mama, si chakula mingi. Nyaka tu katogo mama.
And never drink and drive. Usalama barabarani starts with you. Fika salama. This message is brought to you by NTSA and the European Union.
All right, then let's speak sports. And the 42nd edition of the Kenya Defence Forces Athletics Championship ended today at Ulinzi Sports Complex, Langata. The event was being used to select a team that will represent the forces in the national championships scheduled between the 28th to the 30th of this month at the Kasarani Stadium. Joyce Chepkemoi won the 10,000 meters women final, while Samuel Imeta clocked 10.48 seconds to win the men's 100 meters final. Wise Manuera won the men's 400 meters hurdles, while Judy Kien finished first in the women's 1500 meters. Defense Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, who graced the event, conveyed his message of condolence following the passing on of the third president of the Republic of Kenya, Mwai Kibaki.
Whom we do remember as the leader who led this country in promulgating the new constitution in 2010 that ushered in the new era of devolution in our country, and indeed earned the title of being the father of the Second Republic.
All right, now for the first time, fans will be allowed into the stadium to watch the third edition of the Keep Kano Classic Continental Tour, which will bring together athletic stars, including three-time Olympic champion Shelley Ann Fraser-Price of Jamaica, American Sha'Carri Richardson, Olympic silver medalist Kenny Bednarek, and Ferdinand Omanyala. The event will be held on the 7th of May at the Moi International Sports Center, Kasarani.
What we are looking at is the possibility of this event being focused on sprints and field events so that we can attract foreign athletes to come. Because normally when we have the long distance, most of them they cannot do well. But the sprints, because of high altitude, they do well. And most of the top athletes have realized that they can post fast times in Nairobi.
This year, I think the great thing about the competition is that we're going to have spectators. It's the third year that the Keep Kano Classic has been run. You know, so we're just excited that I think it'll be a bigger tournament, a bigger competition, and we're excited to be one of the lead sponsors for this event.
You cannot just wake up 3 o'clock in the morning going to run. And you go and win in Boston like we have just seen, if you don't train hard. And he said, Dr. Kipchoge actually said, you must work extremely hard.
And with that, it's time for us to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for your company. It has been a very somber mood over here in studio as well. Once again, may his soul rest in peace, the third president of Kenya, Mwai Kibaki.
All right, and President Uhuru Kenyatta, of course, announcing national mourning beginning today until the burial of the late president. Flags will be flying at half-mast. Thank you so much for choosing us tonight. Many thanks. We totally appreciate. On behalf of the team, my name is John Kago. So long.
My name is Shiksha Arora, and the sign language interpreter has been Susan Thuku. Night.
Good night.
The government set up the Universal Service Fund to bring communication services to remote and hard-to-reach parts of the country. We are ensuring that no one is left behind in our journey to a digitally transformed nation. Communications Authority of Kenya, opening your world.
Jumapili hii kwenye runinga ya KBC, ungana naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu kuanzia saa 1 hadi saa 2 asubuhi.
Ningetaka nikwambie, our Jehovah God, because the Bible says he is the same yesterday, today and forevermore. He is able to take you to a place of abundance. He is able to take you to Rehoboth in the name of Jesus Christ.
Kipindi ni neno la neema, ukiletewa naye Askofu Michael Wanderi wa kanisa la Christian Foundation Fellowship Kiambu. Usikose.
Uchaguzi mkuu wa tarehe 9 Agosti utabadilisha pakubwa taswira ya kisiasa ya taifa hili. Je, hii inamaanisha nini kwako wewe mpiga kura? Kila Jumapili saa 12 jioni, jiunge nao Gladys Mungai na Harith Salim kwenye makala yetu ya Kenya ya Amua, ambapo pamoja na wadau mbalimbali watajadili na kudadavua kwa kina michakato ya uchaguzi. Fanya uamuzi wa busara. Usikose kutazama Kenya ya Amua kila Jumapili kwenye runinga uipendayo ya KBC Channel 1.
Ili kupata mafuta kupanda kama skiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *811 397 hash.
Nashukuru serikali kwa kuongeza bei ya mafuta. Sasa niko kwa highway na kuna traffic hata kidogo. Naomba serikali iendelee hivyo, tubaki tu watu ya gasla na heavy machine peke yake. Pia mimi naomba huyu serikali waseme kama gari yako ni below 3000 cc, gari yako
ili kupata mafuta kupanda kama skiza tune, bonyeza *811 397 hash. *811 397 hash.
Let the deposit ya mahari. Very good.
Leo nimehema. I think I'm getting old.
Kama ukuli vizuri, haupikiwi vizuri, utazeeka tu.
Unajua tizi wanzi huku kitchen.
How long are you staying? Hai, Mama Felix. Hata sijakaa dakika 2, unataka kunifukuza already.
The last thing I need right now is some family package.
Nilikuambia tulijuana na mama ya huyu kijana kabla tujajuana na wewe.
Nikirudi, nataka uniambie kila kitu, uwekele juu ya meza, kinaga ubaga.
Habari yako mama? Mimi si mama yako. Kazi yako mchina kina Joyce ukipiga tu mdomo huko.
Wewe unataka kuni-advise maneno ya ndoa?
How to make your wife to be submissive.
That's so low.
Jan kuja kwa nyumba saa ngapi? Alikuwa anatoka wapi?
Stay cool.